Hey, what's good, Spin to Win enjoyers? Now, for some reason, everyone seems to have already written Whirlwind off for this season. I have no idea why, because here it is, blasting a tier 100 hardcore dungeon in 6 minutes. And that is a really good time for a dungeon that you can't just run straight to the end of. We had to kill a lot of enemies, and they were the really tough ghost type enemies as well. So what that means is that we have a really respectable clear time. It can stay alive, like obviously didn't die once, right? Which is something I think a lot of builds are missing. They just have no defensives whatsoever. And it's actually probably the fastest speed farming build in the game, bar maybe the Stormclaw Druid. And then, of course, when it comes to Ubers, this is absolutely fine. But it's Whirlwind, all right? So don't expect the best boss kill times in the world. But a tier 100 boss is way more tanky than a Uber. So the fact that it can kill this in good time means an Uber is absolutely no problem. Anyways, we're going to watch this full run while we get into the specifics of what makes this build tick. And the first thing we're going to take a look at is where we're scaling our damage up, because this is really important when it comes to selecting your gear. So the first part is Blood Rage, a legendary node on the Paragon board, and it reads as follows. Killing an enemy that's bleeding gives a 10% chance to grant Berserking for 5 seconds, which is really good because all of the enemies that we hit are bleeding. This is because we are using a two-handed sword with Whirlwind, but we're also using the Furious Whirlwind enhanced version of Whirlwind, which causes all enemies to bleed. So this gives us a very, very high uptime on Berserking, which is very important because we invest heavily into this. And you'll see this reflected in some of the aspect choices as well. But more importantly, our damage is increased by 25% multiplicatively of the total damage while berserking bonus that we have. So you can see here in the tooltip, my current bonus is 76% multiplicative damage. My damage is almost doubled because of this new legendary node. In addition to all of the berserk bonus that I have as well, which is counted as an additive source as well. And then after that, we have the hemorrhage legendary node, which is kind of similar in a way in which that this actually takes our vulnerable damage, and then 15% of the total vulnerable bonus damage we have is then converted into multiplicative damage for bleeding, meaning that we want to basically at the end of the day stack a bunch of berserk damage bonus and vulnerable damage bonus to tap into these additional multiplicative buckets, which will give us a really, really high amount of damage. Now, as far as the playstyle goes, like the rotation, it is a very simple, straightforward triple shout Barbarian. This is the strongest version of Whirlwind that there is. But a couple of tips and tricks to help you along. When you're using your shouts, you want to make sure that you're actually near enemies. This is for a couple of reasons, but most chiefly among them is that you get more cooldown reduction from the Bold Chieftain's aspect if you tag more enemies with the effects of your shout. So it's very important that you use it close to enemies. Then I would always recommend Wrath of the Berserker be pocketed for, and that means to be saved for, really big elite packs, or if you get CC'd, because it grants Unstoppable, and this will allow you to break out of any CC. General things that you want to be trying to do at all times is maintaining your berserking uptime. This is essentially done by just hitting as many enemies as possible at any one time. And that's about it. For bosses, it's pretty straightforward. You just kind of avoid the effects that they do and try to make sure you're spinning into them as much as possible. Depending on your gear, you may have to occasionally use some basic attacks to get your fury back up. But other than that, you can pretty much just spin on them the entire time because we're not using Unbridled Rage, which was mandatory really in the past, and that sunk a ton of fury. So fury is not as hard to come by with this build, and spinning is just way, way easier to maintain. Now, just a quick bit on the resistances. It's something that I don't think anyone's really talked about much in their builds. But if you want to get capped, and I recommend getting capped if you're pushing these higher tiers so you don't get melted by absolutely everything, the easiest thing to do is actually just have a resistance of each type on each piece of armor. So boots could have fire, your pants could have cold, your chest could have poison, so on and so forth. However, if you are running multiple uniques, then you need to move those resistances to another piece of gear. For example, you could move another resistance to your boots because the boots don't have too many affixes that are super, super important. So, like for example, on my boots, I have poison and lightning resist. And I will have a stat recommendation for all of this gear, along with a full written guide over on Mobilytics. You can find a link to that down in the description below. But that is the build. Don't forget to let me know if you enjoyed the video by leaving a like. Let us know if you've been playing Whirlwind, or which of the Barbarian builds you've been enjoying this season so far. Subscribe for more Diablo content and especially more Barbarian guides. And don't forget to come check out the Twitch. I stream every single day. We're currently testing every single build for the Barbarian and trying to find new techs and new niches, stuff that Season 2 is allowing us to do. It's been a very exciting journey so far. There's been a lot of new builds, and we're finding more and more every single day. Again, everything down in the description. Thanks for watching. Catch you on the next one. Peace out. Bye.